Today, we are diving into how to build powerful AI agents within Make.com. I recently sat down with Make.com head of AI to understand how they build their AI agent. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly the insights of that conversation and how to implement those to build your own AI agent step by step. Before we dive into building agents, it's crucial to understand whether they are actually the right solution and when it actually makes sense to implement a workflow instead.
Imagine you want that someone takes decisions in your workflow. Well, we call workflow scenarios. So let's say you are not sure if you should go down path A or path B. Well, let's say you want to build in super simple functionality that says if the email comes from Riccardo, who is living in Italy, then send him an email and reply to him, sure, we can offer you the service. But if Sebastian is requesting the service and he's coming from Netherlands, we don't have that service in Netherlands. So you reply to him that we can't offer this. Now, you could, of course, build something like contains Italy, contains Netherlands, but ultimately there can be so many indicators where somebody lives. This could be like the language they use, it could be the accent, it could be some mentioning of a city, etc., etc. An LLM, an AI, will understand this. If you build a hard-coded filter, hard-coded logic, super hard. So with LLMs and with this flexible decision taking in workflow execution, we say intelligence at runtime. You actually allow this agentic behavioral and actually predefined scenarios that were super determined. You knew exactly what got executed, become non-determined. Basically, they become like what you give to your colleagues. If you give your colleagues a task, you have a hope what you get back, but ultimately, it really depends on your SOPs, the explanation, etc., etc. So this is super similar to agents.
As we just heard, AI agent excel at making decision and understanding context that would be really difficult to implement with hard-coded logic. So let me show you an example of what I mean by that. So we have two different workflows over here. The first one is an AI enhanced workflow, and the second one is an AI agent workflow. So let me show you the difference over here. So in the first one, what we have over here is we have a customer question that we define over here for simplicity's sake. So where we ask about a specific software and we give a couple of specific information such as having a marketing agency in Milan, we have a team of 12 people and so on. Then what we do afterwards is we use AI to analyze the message and within the message we analyze for specific things. So we want to extract, for example, the country and the product that is mentioned in the conversation. And over here, I added an additional rules so that if no country is mentioned, instead find the actual country where the city is in. And then what we have over here is exactly the hard-coded logic that Sebastian was discussing. So in one side, we have, for example, if the country is equal to Italy, it means that the product is available in the respective country. Otherwise, if the country is equal to if the country is equal to Paris, I think France would be better than Paris as a country. The product is not actually available in that specific country. So this is good and this is a good workflow. The problem with that is if we have additional countries, we always need to consider those over here. So for example, I need to say if the country is equal to Germany, I need to add that over here. And then this needs to be updated and maintained every single time. The other option here would be to use the AI agent with this kind of complex task. So, for example, what we have over here is we have the customer question, which is the same as the one before. And then within the AI agent over here, we define the AI agent to be a customer support agent. We also give them some tools, and I will explain you a little bit better about what tools are. But basically, we give them the possibility to run other workflows to, for example, get if the product is available and get additional information about the product. So if we run this over here, what is happening is that we get a final response over here mentioning hello, a name, thank you for your interest. The software is available for your team in Milan. This is perfectly suited for your team of 12 people. And if you have any more questions, feel free to ask. The agent was able to look at a specific table where we have product availability. So, for example, within Italy, we have this specific availability, and then based on that we sent over a response. So the agent was able to extract the information, pass those to different tools, check the availability, and then give back a response, which is way more efficient when it comes to decision making processes and things like that. Now that we understand when AI agents are actually useful, let's look at why make.com built their agents in their specific way, so that we can see what is the actual practical.
We made agents a global entity. So if you
Okay.
compare this with, for example, N8N or Zapier, our agents are reusable global components that you can plug into your workflows, but you can plug also into chats. So we can have something like relevance, but we can also be something like N8N with the same agent. So actually, you can have multi-purpose agents. You can have agent swarms if you read about agent swarm theory. Nevertheless, you can purpose them globally, reuse them locally.
By the way, if you want access to the full conversation where we discuss AI agents, N8N versus make.com, MCPs, and all that kind of stuff, click the link below and you will find the full conversation. The fact that AI agents are available globally has two different implications on how you can practically create those. The first one is that you just create the agent once and that you can use it everywhere. And we can see a couple of examples on that. And second is the fact that you can add tools directly on the agent level, and every single tool can be used across a wide variety of different workflows. So let's start with the configuration of the agents first. Here I have a couple of agents already configured, but I want to show you an example over here. So first off, what you can do over here is you click on AI agents and you will have the AI agent section. And what you can do is you just click an agent. Over here, you set up the connection. So the connection would be across a wide variety of different providers. You can either use OpenAI, you can use Claude, and then there are also other providers as well as providers that you can have with Open Router, for example. So any kind of open model that is available within Open Router can actually be used. I generally stick with Anthropic and OpenAI majority of the cases. Then you can give the agent a name. So we could say customer support agent, for example. You can select the model that you can use. So in this case, let's select the GPT Turbo, for example. And then over here, you will go through the system prompt. In the system prompt, you just say what is the main function of the agent, giving the agent a little bit of context and a couple of key instructions that he always needs to follow. If the agent has a specific workflow that needs to run, it's important to mention that over here. Here we can say something like you are a customer support agent tasked with resolve responding with the customer queries. This is just an example, but I will show you in a second a couple of more complicated examples. And then over here, you just click on save. A couple of things over here. First off, we have different agent settings. So within the settings, what you can have is obviously the name and the model. So like if, for example, new model comes out, you can update that over here. But it's also important to be aware of what are the actual credits. And then over here, you have a couple of other additional functionalities. So what is the maximum output of tokens that you have available for the agent in a single response? This is important. The steps per agent call. So this is the maximum amount of steps that the agent can take. So for example, if it needs to run through 30 different tools, it can do that, but like 300, it cannot do that. And finally, over here, we have the maximum number of agent run in threads history. This means that the agent will keep a maximum of 10 conversation in the threads, and those can be used to respond and to have context on that. A couple of additional things over here. Obviously, system prompt. Over here, you have a way better visibility of the system prompt. context, which by the way is something that was new. I think it was added actually today, so I haven't seen that before. And over here, you can actually add context either about your business, about specific SOPs related to the function of the agent, and different things like that. So it's adding additional context on what the agent needs to do. And finally, the most important thing is about the system tools. So the system tools are what the agent can actually do. So let's go to a couple of examples and let's show you an example of a lead research agents that I have over here. In this example, I created a lead research agent, which has a lot of different functionalities, but the overall goal of this is to research specific people through LinkedIn, through their website, through Google, and then output a rundown of all the information that you have available. So this is the system prompt. Within the prompt, first off, we give a specific idea of what the agent is supposed to do. The second is what is the general workflow of the agent. This is useful, especially when it comes to having a specific set of tools that need to be called in a sequential step. So, for example, if you need to start with doing a Google search and then getting the LinkedIn information and then getting the website, this can be mentioned over here. And then finally, we give a couple of additional information to the agent. The most important thing, as I mentioned before, is the part related to the system tools. So let's see a couple of them and let's see how they actually work. This is an example of one of the tools that I built myself. So the tool basically starts over here from this start a sub scenario, runs through API, so gets information about a LinkedIn profile, um, get the data set about that specific profile, and then sends back this profile information to the agent. The most important aspects when it comes to tooling is this button over here called scenario inputs and outputs. Basically, the scenario inputs is what is the actual input that is given to this specific tool, and the scenario output is what is the output that this tool generates. So this is something that needs to be defined by you right now. I know probably the make team is already working on a version where this is already auto defined, but for the moment you will need to define that over here. So for example, we have the profile URL. Uh, this means that the agent accepts this input, this scenario input of a profile URL. Here we have a definition of the profile URL. So this is the URL of a LinkedIn profile to analyze. We have the type. So the type is actually a text. And here we have a bunch of different types that we can select. And then here we can select either a default value or whether this is required or multi-line, for example. So we can click on save. And then over here within the LinkedIn profile extractor, we can see over here that this profile URL, which is the scenario inputs that was defined over here, is actually available by using this start a sub scenario module. So in this way, you can actually map variables that are coming from the input directly into the workflow that you are building. And finally, over here in the output, you output the actual data that you have at the end. Another core component that I forgot to mention before is that agents, in order to work, need to be set on demand. So this means that over here they can only run when called automatically from an agent. So these tools can only be called from the agent and cannot be used in any other way from different other parts of the business. Finally, within here, within the system tools and within the configuration panel, we have this setting over here where we can add the description related to the different tool. And this is helpful to the agent to understand how this tool is actually useful. So over here, we have this website extractor and we can define that used to get information about the website. Yeah, something as simple like that. Now I would like to show you a couple of examples of how these agents work and how you can use that in different ways and why it's important to have those in a global variable over here. So in this we have first example, this is a tally form. So imagine you have a form like the following. So this is the form. Over here you define the name, surname, you define the phone number, and then the email finally. So let's put the email over here, and then hey, I'm interested in your services. Then what happens is we watch for new responses. So let's run this. And then we start the lead research. So in this way, you can have something like every time you get a new response from a form, you start the agent, you run the agent, and the agent will go through the different steps in order to generate an actual research on the specific prospect, and then finally will email the research directly to you. So this finished, and what we can see over here is we can see what is the actual response looking like. So over here, for example, I asked them for formatting in HTML to put it directly into an email. And then if we go to the email, what we can see is the following, where I have you just got a new response. Here it gives me some lead information, and here, for example, it created a prospect overview, profile summary, added a photo also here, added the LinkedIn of the my profile, the professional background, and as well as a company overview. So this is just an example of one way this is used. Over here, you can have a look into the agent and look at what are the different steps that were executed. So over here in execution steps, you can see the different steps. So for example, we have system, which is like the system prompt. We have human, so the message that we sent over. And then over here, we have this role AI, which means AI did some kind of specific activity. Over here, it called the Google search tool. It called the Google search tool with these following arguments. So over here, the query was Riccardo Vandro Uplifted Consulting. Search type was person, and then number of results was 5. In here, we got the actual response from the tool. So over here, this is the response that we got from Google search. Um, then if we scroll down, we can see over here that it called another tool. So it called the LinkedIn profile extractor and then added the profile URL over here. If we go over here, we can see the response of the tool. So all the different profile data, and obviously this is not formatted. So this is automatically formatted in the end by the agent, and then finally called the website extractor over here. So I know he called the Google search to get information about the company. So it got like information about the company from Google. And then finally over here, I suppose he called the website extractor and like extracted the information from the website itself. So yeah, this is a way of how this can work in one example. Now let's see another example on how this can be applied to a search interface. In this example over here, we added the exact same agent within a Slack workflow. So this workflow is fairly simple. Over here, we watch for new messages sent in a specific channel within Slack, and then we run the lead research agent on that channel, and then we send back a response. So you can think about that as actually using the agent right within your Slack. So if we go back to Slack over here and we open a chat to the AI assistant, we can say, "Hey there, please research Riccardo at Uplifted Consulting." Ah, screw it. Let's do something different. Please research Leah Motley at Morning Side and give me back an overview. Shout out to Leah Motley. uh, so um, so the agent will go over the following flow. So here he found the actual message and went over the research agent, give back a response about Liam, and here he gave a lot of different things about him, and then finally he outputted the response directly over here. Probably there is a little bit of things that needs to be done in terms of formatting, but other than that, this is the actual response. And so in this way, you can think about the AI agent as a tool that can be used either within a workflow, so like an automated workflow, or within your own chat interface, or within, for example, Slack, or whatever the case might be. Now, the last example probably is the most exciting to me, and it's what happens when you combine different agents together. So here I have this example where we build an agent swarm. So we combine two different agents together. Over here, we combine the lead research agent with the email personalization agent, for example. So you already saw what is inside the lead research agent. And also over here, you can see which are the different tools which are available. So LinkedIn profile, Google search, website extractor. Within this one, we have other additional tools. So we have, for example, get email templates, get industry insight, value proposition matching. So you can mix and match different agents together to create a very complex workflow if you really wanted to. So in this example, we search for a specific person, such as Eric at Growth Engine X, and then we started the research. The workflow just finished, so let me show you the actual details. Over here, we have the lead research, which is essentially the same as the one that we had before. Where if we look at the different execution steps, we can see that it went over the system, it went over the message that we sent over, went over the tool calling and all the stuff like that. And then finally, what happened over here is that we pass the information that we created, we pass the information that we created over here in the content to the second agent. And this second agent then started doing tool calling. So it searched for specific email templates within a file like the following over here, where we define different email templates that it could select. Then went over here, got industry insights, so wanted to find different information about marketing, more specifically on outbound. And here he created some kind of different industry insights and different things about the landscape. And then finally over here we have another tool which is like value proposition matcher, and over here he added the full research that it was created. So at the end over here you got the response, and then finally created the message. So if we check over here the response, we can see what is the message look like. Hi Eric, I was exploring Growth Engine, and then here we have a personalization, and then the full message is actually created based on the template that we created. Keep in mind that this is like the first try that I do over here, so there's a lot more optimization that can be done. But if you think about that, you can add additional components to the different agents. You can add additional tools to the different agents. So for example, over here we just research main information about the lead on LinkedIn, but let's say we want to have information about the LinkedIn post, or we want to have recent news about the company. This is something that we can build directly within the tooling. Hope this was actually useful. And by the way, lots of more videos are coming when it comes to building AI agents and building different kinds of AI agents. So stay tuned and catch you next time.